Hello and welcome to our MTSS Community of Practice for September. I'm Wendy Hardwick, an MTSS specialist with the SPDEG grant. Today we have with us Terry Welburn. She is a project manager for Project Respect West and Project Aware South. I think she'll tell us a little bit more about her experiences and education as we continue. Thank you for being here today and welcome.
Thank you, Wendy. I am going to go ahead and share my screen. If you guys will give me just one moment to get that up. Okay, is that working for everyone?
I don't see it.
You don't see it. Okay, well, here we go. Let me try again.
There you
Can
go.
you see it? Okay, fantastic. Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. I know you all have had a long day, I have no doubt, but at least it's a beautiful day, so we'll take it. Again, my name is Terry Welborn, and I am currently a project manager for Aware South, and I'll talk about that. And then kind of transitioning into the project specialist for Respect West grant. I come to you with lots of experience that started in special education back when things looked a little different. I taught self-contained SED program, emotionally disturbed program for 5 years and learned so very much during that time, and then moved into school counseling, and I was a school counselor in Moore, and then later in Norman at the middle school, and transitioned my last 8 years to being a school counselor at the elementary. So I have at Truman Elementary, I should say. So I have 32 years of public school experience, which makes me very seasoned, but also put me on the 80 plan, which means that I got to officially retire. But because I'm an educator, I couldn't really afford to retire, so I went straight to work for the State Department of Education and have been digging into the Aware grant and now moving over to Respect West, as I said. So I'm going to keep moving through. I hope I can just share a little bit with you today. I don't have extensive knowledge, but I certainly have spent time with this with my districts, and I want to share with you some things that we have learned from this and how this has gone. I haven't been here through the whole thing, so I'm just going to share with you my experience. So in the session today, we will explore how our vision, communication, and then feedback loops build stronger and more sustainable MTSS systems across districts. So that's what we're going to be digging into. There's so much more, but I know you guys are working on all that. So let me start by just talking a little bit about our SAMHSA Aware grant. AWARE stands for Advancing Wellness and Resilience in Education. It is a federal grant program that is funded by Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and it helps schools and communities improve mental health systems for children and youth. The OSDE has managed 3 Aware grants. There's also 2 school districts, Tulsa and Marietta Public Schools, that manage their own Aware grant. And we are currently, next Tuesday, beginning year 5 of Aware South, which is our 3rd and final Aware grant. So the core purpose of Aware has been to increase awareness of mental health issues among school-age youth to train school staff and adults. We're really looking for that baseline training and mental health challenges, both understanding it and responding to it. Our core purpose is also to connect students and families to appropriate mental health services and supports, and then just building that sustainability with those school-based mental health systems that lasts beyond the grant period. It is a big, big effort for us and what we're doing. So in looking at that, our overview of what we do is we partner with districts. And currently on Aware South, we are partnering with Davis, Sulphur, and Lawton Public Schools. And we partner with districts to implement MTSS frameworks. We, within that, conduct universal screenings. We do lots and lots of staff training, and we try to create strong referral networks. So the implementation of MTSS within our program is to really meant to organize the mental health and wellness services within the district. So our focus is on that system level change. That when I came in, the grant was already a few years in. And so going back and really reading that, of course, we know a lot of the whys in Oklahoma as we go back to the reasons that we would need to implement this into schools. But we had to really start with, if we're going to have system level change in our districts, we had to start with aligning vision, finding communication patterns, and then working on our feedback loops. I put this note at the bottom that the SAMHSA Aware Grant is a national initiative that equips schools to shift from reacting to crises to building preventative resilient systems that support the mental health and success of every student. Just as all of our MTSS frameworks are looking to do is to build that preventative system and then provide support at those higher tiers. So lessons learned, we're just going to talk again about our vision, communication patterns, and then that critical feedback loop that we have within there and what we have learned from all of this. So I'm just going to give you Aware's vision. We have both a mission and a vision within Aware. Project Aware strives to build comprehensive, coordinated, and integrated school behavioral health services, utilizing a multi-tiered systems of support framework, which assist every student in reaching their fullest potential in school and in life. When we talk about that, when we go back to that, of course, with our schools, I kind of picked up on that. You know, there's several parables, but there's the firefighting parable. And this is where I go with a lot of schools. Like a lot of times in school, and I certainly know I was there when I was still working in the school just a couple years ago, was we were spending a lot of time being firefighters. We were running around putting out fires every day. We had students in crisis. We had a lot of classroom disruption. Much of this was leading to suspensions or conflicts that often escalated into something even bigger. And just like in real life with fires, those fires in our school take our immediate attention, and they take lots of energy for all of us and can create a lot of burnout and also pull resources away from everything else, as we know. So when we are rushing around putting out those fires in that, we are neglecting to really look at the root causes. Like, what is causing this fire? Is it the wiring? What's going on here? We're not able to teach that fire safety that we need to. And we don't always get our alarms and sprinklers installed and in working condition when we're running around like this, just responding. So those high need students and behavioral challenges that we were seeing in schools are just like visible fires. And in our MTSS, what we really want to do is put in those fire prevention strategies. And that can be very hard to build. But the first thing that we always start with is developing our mission and vision. And that is really a critical piece of your MTSS. Because your vision equals your direction of where your program is going. It is your compass. So a shared vision is the compass that ensures all your staff members, from teachers to bus drivers, understand the why behind the MTSS program that you are working to develop and implement. Without this, it becomes very fragmented and can be competing initiatives. Okay, we're not pulling it all together and streamlining it. With vision, everyone's efforts align toward common goals. It gives access for all students. It provides that prevention level that we really want, and it aids in student success. So when we talk about vision, I think I was listening the other day to a presentation and from the Bridge Center, and they were talking about, so some of you may have heard this if you've worked with the Bridge Center, but they were talking about Apple's vision. Like, why does Apple have so much more success than other tech companies out there? They're basically offering very similar devices and tech services and all of that, but Apple seems to have a lot more success. And a lot of that came from Apple's vision. And in their vision, it was to make the best products on earth and to leave the world better than we found it. And that is what Apple started with. And their vision started at the very top and then was communicated down and is consistently communicated as well as revised when it needs to be. So I really liked hearing that example, real world example of vision and what it can do, because obviously most companies have a vision, but how we state that, how we communicate that, and how we direct back to that are all critical in driving our success. So the shared vision and communication, I just think that when we align that in MTSS, it allows us to emphasize that all staff play a role in what we're doing. So for us in AWARE, that was that this is for all staff. This is not a counselor initiative. This is not a AWARE staff initiative. This is not just administrators. This is all of our staff are involved in this. And it's a structure and a program, and it's not just an initiative. So by using MTSS AWARE projects, we're able to really build that shared vision of what prevention and intervention look like. And that's critical right now in schools because we are running around putting out a lot of fires. And when we can really sit back and take a look at what does this look like for us? How can we put some prevention in place that we can all buy into, that we can all work together on, that is provided to all students? And then where can we layer those interventions on top of that? So the other thing was just about strengthening communication structures. And that, just like in your MTSS systems, came through establishing our teams, having ongoing consistent meetings, having dashboards with data, and also community and parent partnerships was really critical to what we do. We want the community to know what we're in there doing. We want to be very transparent about everything that we're building. So when we have develop this vision together, it obviously promotes buy-in and motivation. Your staff are going to be more committed, obviously, when they see a clear, meaningful vision that reflects their values within that. And that's where that district level team and those that are creating your MTSS program really come into this. Your vision statements really help you to answer, why are we doing MTSS and how does it help my students? And your teachers and staff and all those that are in the buildings and in the community really need to understand this. So also, it gives us that shared ownership, which transforms it from a compliance task into a school-wide culture. So I really like this piece because I know right now we hear this, we all have to be doing MTSS by 2032. In 2032, this will be mandated. When the truth is that when we start digging into MTSS and learning the structures and how it works, it does transform your culture, and it's not just compliant. It's the best way to do things for kids. And as I said, I have taught and been in the school systems for a long, long time. And I have lived through lots and lots of initiatives and have felt some of the same negativity that others have, but I've also been a part of great things. So I've been a part of when we just called it SAP, Student Assistance Program, and then we move into PBIS, and then we move into RTI, and now that transforms into MTSS. And really, to me, understanding that is like, we're not doing something new. We're refining the things that we have been doing and that we know work best for our schools and our students to provide them with what they need. And when you can articulate that vision to your school community, it really helps to align this and just gives that motivation to keep doing it. So vision is a decision-making anchor too. So I really liked the way this was stated, that vision provides a litmus test for choices about our programs, about our interventions, and where we're going to put any resources that we have. Where do we need more staff? Where can we put in some interventions? When I look at this, it has really helped my districts to look at programs that they feel will help develop their students into, thriving adults someday who have all the problem-solving skills and all the character development that they need to go out into the world and be productive. So it really helps about those choices. It's also helped us, like lately, I know in my districts, we've been looking a lot at our littles, that early education where we're really seeing some very strong behaviors is a nice way to put it, right? Lots and lots of things that we're having to react to. And it has helped us when we've sat down and looked at our vision, like, what can we put in place? What kind of programs can we put, into tier 1 and start some intervention with this? Because we're all just running around reacting and it's not working right now. So it just really helps you sit down and look at, where do we need resources? Where do we need different programs? Where do we need, we put in ABL in some of our schools, action-based learning, because we're seeing that these kids are learning differently and we've got to have them up and moving and active. So just things like that. And it also helps, when does this PD opportunity support our vision? I mean, I know none of you want to go to another PD that's not supporting what you're doing in school. There's some great ones out there, but we're all doing a lot. And so you have to really look at this. Is this supporting our vision? Is it helping us grow? And then it prevents initiative overload and keeps us focused on what matters most. And what matters most is student success, and also that we're, all taking care of ourselves and being a part of something that we believe in, because teacher retention is certainly a huge thing in our schools right now too. So how can we provide our students in schools with success and do that without being too overloaded and, wanting to leave? So keeping that in there. So also a big piece of what we do is sustainability. We don't want to just do things because you have a grant right now. We want to build programs and structures that are going to stay in place for a long, long time. So our grant is going to end. 2 of our grants have already ended. I promise you, though, those visions have endured. A lot of the systems that we developed have endured. I understand that it's a difficult time with some, financial capacity to do everything, but so much of it has endured. When staff, families, and partners share that vision, it becomes a part of your identity. And it's not just a temporary project. And that's really important. So basically, kind of what we're saying on this is MTSS is just like what these 3 core elements that I'm talking about today are your tier 1. They are that prevention level. If your team will really take time to sit down and develop a vision about what you're doing and why you're doing it, it's going to go a long way in helping you to have a very successful program that will endure and be sustained. So I did want to include a few vision statement ideas, and I do have some links in here and different things that I'll share with you toward the end. But there's just some ideas about vision statements. So the first one, every student will thrive in a supportive learning environment where academic, behavioral, and social emotional needs are met through proactive, data-driven system of support. Second, our schools will provide a safe, inclusive, responsive environment where data, teamwork, and tiered supports empower all students to achieve their fullest potential. So some things you want to avoid are being too vague. You don't want to be too narrow, and you don't want it to lack that systemic view. So saying something like our goal is to help struggling students isn't quite going to communicate what you want it to. When you think about writing your own vision statements, key number 1, keep it student-centered. Focus on student outcomes and belonging. Name the key elements of MTSS. So keep in there your bit about prevention, about the tiered supports, about making data-driven decisions, and then about our collaboration. And make sure it's practical, okay? It should be inspiring, but also practical. And it should align with your district goals. So you've got to tie your MTSS to broader visions within your district. It is your own MTSS program. There are guidelines about how to develop it and set it up, but it will be your own system. So what comes next is our communication. And when we think about communication, this is like my biggest piece. I love developing a mission statement, but if we don't turn around and communicate that effectively, it goes nowhere. If we don't consistently communicate and provide feedback about what we're doing, it becomes very ineffective. And so when we talk about communication, we're talking about how are we going to communicate our MTSS? Who is going to communicate it? When do we communicate it, and where do we communicate it? So just like everything, it's key that it starts at the top with that support, but then how we play that out is critical to providing that sustainability in the end. Communication is where you get your alignment. So it's really important in the beginning of MTSS to develop a communication plan. And again, that's just what I said on that last slide. You know, when you make a vision statement, I have some examples down below of how are you going to start with communicating your vision statement to your staff, to your community, to your, bus drivers, to everybody that is part of your system. So it might be a one-pager to distribute at professional development. It might be adding that vision to your handbook, creating a video or a visual. I know a lot of people have it on their websites, so just different things like that, but it has to be communicated down. You can't assume that people will just understand or buy into what you're doing without having some of that background and understanding that goes with it. So part of building a strong MTSS communication system is all about developing strong teams. And I'm not teaching the teams part of it, but it is a passion that you really have to get strong teams, the right teams in place from the beginning, but always that can be modified. And I'm a big believer in setting those regular meetings early on in the year, like in the summer, just put them on the calendar. You want to really make sure that you have set that time for your MTSS team to come together and work on all your plans and programs. I have to say, at my last school that I taught at, we had bi-monthly meetings for MTSS. And I really liked that as the school year went on. Sometimes we would titrate down a little bit as we didn't need to meet quite so often. But you have to think about what that's going to look like, and you really have to put that into place early on, because we all know all too well, there's going to be a lot of things that come up and get in the way. So you really have to get that on the calendar, really put some commitment into being there, making sure your leadership is there, that there's, a well-rounded group of leaders in that team. So you want good representation from all the different areas. And then within that, you really have to establish roles and responsibilities within your team, and just, again, get that calendar invite early, but also keep a pre-linked agenda and notes in there. You can make just that one-page agenda now, even in docs that has multiple pages. You don't have to make a different one every time. So it's great to have that. And then you can also move that down to having bi-weekly grade level or department meetings, and even down to case management. But really, I know what we're talking about right now is just building that system. And so developing that calendar and your meetings off the bat. So again, just think about all these different areas. You want to share data. It's a critical piece of it. And you can't do it all every time. We all are limited on time, and you have to know that in advance. Like, I don't think I've really ever been to a meeting where we've successfully made it through every level of our agenda in detail. We've hit every point, but we weren't always able to go as in great detail. So really think about how you want to develop that. Really clarify your action steps, engage families and students in your MTSS, help them know what you're doing, have that be a part of your meetings and your development, and making sure you have student voices in there too, and really highlighting your resources and interventions on social media or in other ways is a great way to get families involved in what you're doing. I've seen a lot of that lately, and it makes me happy when I see, kids and teachers doing great things and parents responding positively about that. I know there's always a risk on that, but think about how you can share that out and what you can do. So now I've got some resources for you. I had done a little presentation where I just built a multi-tiered system of supports packet. And I have that linked in here, but it just gives you guidance on writing your vision statement, developing a communication plan, establishing your team and practices, allocating your resources, and making decisions on data that will truly drive your processes. And I can't say that enough. You really have to pull that data into everything and let that drive your processes. You've got to know what's going on. And that's one of my favorite parts of MTSS, because I guess having taught and been a counselor for a long time, I've had lots of teachers through the year who would come to me and say, hey, this kid needs to be tested. And I'd say, okay, well, tell me more. Why do you think they need to be tested? And I get it. Their answer would be, I've taught for 25 years. They need to be tested. I know what they need. And I felt that way in my own position about counseling. But I also know when I call parents, if I've got a little data to help explain what's going on, that it really creates that buy-in and helps us know in what direction to move. So when we talk about feedback loops, this is also that third critical piece of that bottom layer in your MTSS structure, is that you're constantly communicating and then getting feedback and looping back. That has to be an ongoing thing, because I think that is part of the burnout in education, is we start initiatives and we start programs and we don't always go back and progress monitor or look at the success of what we're doing. We just keep doing it. And so getting those feedback loops in place is really a critical piece. Is this intervention working? Is it working for the student? Is it working for our grade level? Is it working for our site? And we can talk about those things in our grade level or MTSS meetings. The district level meeting is going to look different than a site meeting. We can review our screening data, our attendance data. We can look at different character programs and what we're garnering from that. We can look at our behavior data and then just academics too. And it really helps you make the best decisions for your whole site. We're starting at that prevention level and then moving into those tiers to give that guided support. So again, at the district level or at the school level, you're going to be looking at discipline and climate surveys and universal screenings. All of those are so important. And then providing some family ability to communicate, family and community. So I know, like in the AWARE grant, we try to have a community advisory committee so that they can know what's going on in our schools and then find the good things about that, but also give us feedback on that. And it helps a lot. Just like when we started doing screening, we ensured we have not always ensured from the beginning. As we've learned, we've ensured that we're very transparent about exactly what we are screening. We provide the questions, we provide the whys, we provide it all to help parents feel like they are a part of this and agree to that only after they have good knowledge of that. So going through this, I just wanted to give you guys some examples of good agenda structures. This was developed through AWARE, and it just really walks you through every piece of it that you could do. Obviously, AWARE is a mental health grant. So when you see sample MHIT meeting at the top, that's mental health intervention team. Even our AWARE teams are moving just to call that MTSS. We have too many acronyms going on and we want to be streamlined on that, but you've got that attendance at the top, you've got your team norms, everybody has a role in that, and then you've got your agenda, and it really goes through. What are we doing tier 1? Is it working? What do we need to pull in? Tier 2, tier 3, and down to your communication plan, which is a really important part of this. We've got to be communicating back. It's just like I've learned at our schools, when we give the screener, which takes time from teachers and students, if we don't then take time to review those screener results with our staff and others, it can pull in that misunderstanding and not give us the buy-in that we want behind that, because they don't know what the results are. They need to know what this is showing us and what it is motivating us to do and why, we're making decisions based on that. So the end of that agenda kind of comes up on the next page. So it goes into setting your next meeting. Hopefully you have that for the year and setting some goals, but really laying out the responsibilities. Who's going to communicate that to the staff? Who's going to write that up? Who's going to go tell, the PE coach that he's going to be the check-in, check-out person for this kiddo, because sometimes we would develop those tier 2 and tier 3 plans, but we didn't develop the communication plan to go with it so that we were assured that it was followed up on. Like, who's going to go set that up? Who's telling these people? So you have to really make sure that you have that looped in there too. So again, just gave you some space to kind of think about what you want your agenda items to be, formats that you may have seen, how often, all that kind of stuff. On the one that says page 8 at the top, I do want to give credit, and I did up at the top. This is developed by a Sulphur High School teacher and counselor, and it's just a very small piece of what she does, but she has a whole data system, tracking system. And I know it's very hard to see, and I apologize that, but if you can, increase the size later, you'll see what she does in here, and it actually tallies itself, and she's got it all set up and automatic, and it's so brilliant because, this is really a team at the high school that is busy. We're busy at all the levels, but they were busy, busy, busy. And when we first established our MHIT, MTSS teams, it was hard. So they were just trying to meet at lunch. But then they really started pulling in the data and looking at this and matching that with students and needs and resources. And they actually decided for themselves that they needed more time. And so they actually moved their monthly meeting to be well before school started. And it was voluntary that they all wanted that time to really go through this because they found it so important. So you can see then kind of what those columns include. And then we've just got the problem solving method. This one happens to be from Branching Minds, but also Bridge Center has a great one that they share. Now, this next one I put really big on there. This form belongs to Davis Public Schools. And a big piece of this is putting the right people in place too. And Davis has put some phenomenal people in place this year. So this is what their MTSS agenda looks like. And I have loved this structure because it really goes through everything. And if you see under resources, all of those are linked. So it goes to their data. It goes to their discipline referrals. And it also has an MTSS fidelity assessment that tallies itself so they can see, are we doing this? Are we meeting what our objectives on this? It's got the stakeholder communication in there. It's really, really a good example. So I asked Dr. Healy from Davis if I could borrow this. And she was kind enough to let me. And it's just something that you could look at to model what you're doing. This is what this too, and she actually went to Tally's training too. So this is what their data spreadsheet looks like. So you can kind of see that, and it helps them with students to really know who do we need to look at further, what's going on with kids, what can we do to support them. And then I've got an example of a tiered intervention matrix, just where we're really talking about our interventions and decision-making rules. And that can be pulled into an agenda as well. So I know we are getting really close on time. So I just put our key takeaways is that our vision drives our direction. You've got to take time at the beginning to get these things in place. That communication system is critical, obviously, and it keeps everyone aligned. And then our feedback loops just ensure that continuous improvement, which is what we've got to do. So I know that was a lot. I'm happy to take any questions or.
Does anyone
Anything.
have any questions about the content?
I just want to say that this
Question.
has not been in a perfect alignment, that we've had to go back and refine this time and time again too.
One question that is usually asked is if it's recorded and if it will be available. Yes, it's been recorded, and yes, Benjamin, can you tell them where they'll be able to find this video?
This video will be able to view on our YouTube channel and on the SPDIG OKMTSS implementation course. So if you're enrolled in the course, it'll also be available there.
I want to thank Terry for being here with us today and sharing this information with us. It's thrilling to see all the different ways that MTSS is being addressed through all these different programs and grants. And I might steal some of your resources.
Absolutely.
All right.
And I'll make sure that you guys have all of those.
Please join us next month in October, the last Wednesday in October, for our next community practice. And we will be talking about Tier 1, building the foundation for MTSS. Thank
Wendy,
you all for your time today. Yes.
it's not the last week in oh sorry, it's October. No, I thought it was November. I thought it was November.
I was like, yeah, not quite. I stuttered over October because I can't believe we're already talking about October. So don't put me in November already.
It's moving by too quickly.
It did. I don't know what happened to September. September just disappeared. So, well, thank you again, everyone. And thank you again, Terry, for joining us today.
Marlo asks, can you add the link to the packet resource?
Yes, I will give you those links.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys.